Many of us can probably say we've known someone who has fought, is fighting, or lost their fight against breast cancer, and still there is no cure, but doctors and researchers are working to find one all the time. Mercy Health Dr. Keiva Bland is a board-certified breast surgeon. She joins us so we can learn a little bit more about what may put us at a higher risk for breast cancer. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we talk about this in October, September, around Race for the Cure, but we really need to be having these conversations all year round.
Yes,
so, yeah, talk a little bit about what some of those risk factors are for breast cancer.
Okay, so some of the most common risk factors for breast cancer is actually having family members who have breast cancer. So especially first degree relatives such as mother, sister, that type of thing. Or if you have like a group of people in your family that have breast cancer, say for instance, a grandmother, aunt, and then that aunt's daughter, that type of thing. Male breast cancer also is an increased risk. Some of the other things that can increase risk are just an individual thing. So if you have a mammogram has abnormal findings, you get a biopsy and it shows some atypia, so unusual cells. The cells are not operating properly. That can be a precursor for a breast cancer. So those type of things can increase your risk on an individual basis.
And that's why it's so important to know that family history, because I know many times I go to the doctor and you're filling out these sheets and you're like, oh, what does my parent, what does my dad, my mom have, who was that, where are my family? So it is important to have those conversations with your family members so you know that history.
Yes, and unfortunately sometimes we're a little guarded in terms of our family history. We use euphemisms or words to say cancer instead of just saying that the person had cancer, or they'll say something like issues or whatever. But it is important to know that history, and it's not just for breast cancer. So if you have a family history for a lot of different cancers, you may be at risk for a genetic mutation syndrome. And so those things are important to know, because you can get genetic testing and those type of things to find out if you have a genetic mutation that puts you at risk for developing breast cancer or other cancers.
That was my next question. What kinds of testing can we do, and what then, okay, we get the testing, but then what can we do with the results?
Okay, so fortunately, we have excellent genetic counselors that can let you know if you're a person who would really qualify for it. But part of what I was mentioning before puts you in the group where you qualify for getting genetic testing. So, people being diagnosed with breast cancer under the age of 50 in your family, groups of people who have cancer, male breast cancer. Unfortunately, if you develop a breast cancer, then you also are usually eligible for getting genetic testing, but usually the person who has cancer should be the one who gets tested. And there's certain types of cancer like triple negative, meaning it doesn't respond to your female hormones. You also don't have HER2/neu, which is a protein that can make cancers more aggressive. Those type of things under the age of 50 also, puts you in a group where you really should get tested for genetic mutations. Yes.
And then at that point, there be some sort of preventative surgery? Like, say you get these results and you're like, okay, you got this gene, you're BRCA, or what, you have this. Now what?
And so fortunately, they do give you some recommendations and give you some percentages about, what your risk of developing cancer is. But in terms of being more aggressive, in terms of reducing your risk for developing breast cancer, if you've been diagnosed with a genetic mutation, you can get what's called prophylactic or preventive mastectomies that can reduce your risk by up to 95% for developing breast cancer. And so you can get that with or without reconstruction. That's a very individual decision, and there are some things that go into making that decision if you're a good candidate for reconstruction. The other thing is that if you're determined to be high risk for like the abnormal findings or your family history, and you have a greater than 20% lifetime risk of developing breast cancer, you can also get preventative surgery. Most times it's covered by insurance, but of course you have to check with your insurance carrier. The last thing I wanted to mention was that you can also do something called chemoprevention, where you can take medications that are typically used to treat breast cancer, but it can be given to reduce your risk of developing breast cancer if you're found to have a greater than 20% lifetime risk of developing breast cancer. And so these are things that you can do. And then if you're not ready to take medication, you're not ready to have surgery, then we can do what's called increased surveillance, and we can see you every 6 months for an exam, alternate mammograms with MRIs to try to make sure if something does come up, we can catch it very early.
Yeah, so and it's so important, especially especially, you know, they say 40, maybe depending on your family history, that
Exactly.
might start earlier, but to get in for those yearly screenings
Yes.
at the very least to get those mammograms.
Yes, I agree. Annually is ideal. There's some people who, for some reason, are not able to get that, but try not to go more than 2 years without getting a mammogram. But annually would be the best thing.
As you said, that early, find that early, you can get in there and
Yes.
start working on it to keep it from.
Yes, stage 1
spreading.
cancers have a 95% or greater survival risk, survival over 5 years if you catch it at stage 1. So when it's small and just localized to the breast.
That's the goal there. Doctor, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having
We
me. I
appreciate
appreciate
it.
this
Yeah.
opportunity.
Absolutely. Some information there from Mercy Health if you'd like to jot that down and schedule your mammogram.